So thank you all for coming. And we moved from the cafeteria into the library because it's much warmer and more comfortable in here than sitting at a cafeteria table. So feel free to seat wherever is most comfortable. I'm Ingrid Allardi. I'm the superintendent of the Norfolk Elementary Schools. I'm going to share a little bit about the school budget process with you this morning for the elementary districts. And then we have Dr. Drolet, the superintendent of King Philip Regional, in the back. And he is going to follow, but we will take a food and drink break in the middle. And Rich, do you want to introduce your business manager? Well,
yeah, absolutely. I'm Rich Drolet, the King Philip superintendent. This is Jill Brilliant. She's the finance director for King Philip, and she's new this school year.
Great. All right. So, the Norfolk Public Schools, I'm just going to give you a little information and background on the schools. We have two schools. You're currently in the HL Day School, which is our primary school for preschool through grade 2. And then we have the Freeman Kennedy School, which serves students in grade 3 to 6. Background on the schools, we have a new principal at H. Olive Day this year, Ms. Kristen Gaffoon, and we have her assistant principal, Rebecca Austin. Those are the administrators that lead this building. We currently have 471 students at the H. Olive Day. That has been a growing population. I know we've talked about that before in various forums, but up about 100 students over the last 10 years. Freeman Kennedy School, the principal, Lisa Alton-Hickey, and her assistant, Adam Tarzik, serves 568 students. We are expecting, based on current enrollment, that will be about 610 next year. We have in the Norfolk Public Schools about 230 employees, 118 staff members work at the H. Olive Day, 100 staff members at the Freeman Kennedy. More staff at the lower elementary, primarily because the preschool programs have multiple adults in each per the guidelines for student-staff ratios. And many of our therapists, speech and language pathologists, OT, physical therapists, their offices are housed at the H. Olive Day. In our central office, we have 11 staff members. Myself, we have a director of curriculum. That's a position change from last year. We used to have an assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction, and we restructured that over the summer for budgetary reasons primarily. So we have a director of curriculum. We have a director of technology, Trish Kelly, who also is a Norfolk resident. Director of student services, sometimes you see that listed as special education director. Our director of student services also covers English language learners and 504 accommodation plans, so it's a broader position. And then our business office is different. We do not have a full-time business manager at the Norfolk schools. We have a consultant 1 day a week, Miriam Goodman. She comes in and she is the lead business, serves in the capacity of a business manager, but it's 1 day a week. Also in the office, we have a business payroll specialist. We used to have an assistant business manager, but again, that position was restructured based on budget. So we have a business specialist and then an HR specialist as opposed to an HR director. That is our core central office team. We have worked really hard over the probably the last decade to look for opportunities for cost-sharing administrative positions. So we used to have a full-time facilities director that just oversaw the Norfolk Public Schools. About 10 years ago, we restructured that position, and we now share that position with the town. So I think you saw Tim present at the Freeman a couple weeks ago. That position is 0.6 at the town side and 0.4 for the schools, and we cost share that position, as well as the assistant deputy, Mike McDonald.
Please?
It's about 0.6 at the town and 0.4 at the schools, and then, you're welcome, the deputy director is more evenly split. We also, 2 years ago, regionalized our food service program. So we used to have a full-time food service director that managed the food service program. We provide free breakfast and lunch for all students per the state guidelines, and that is state funded. We partnered about 3 years, I think it's 3 years, we're in our third year, and share those services for management of the food service with both Rentham and Plainville. So we have one regional food service director and assistant for the 3 towns. So obviously what we do, you're probably very well aware, we educate all students who reside in Norfolk, and we take students in as of their 3rd birthday if they have a disability per the state guidelines and law. So we begin educating students as of the 3rd birthday, as of age 3, And we, the Norfolk schools, go through grade 6. After grade 6, our students transition up to King Philip Regional. Some attend private schools at that stage. The most important thing that I think we really do is we set the foundation for how students see themselves as learners and how they feel about education as a whole. We work hard to make sure that our academic programs have a strong foundation in all the core disciplines, so reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. We also really work hard to build that natural curiosity. We know that students are motivated by exploring the world, making sense of their environment. We want to keep our curriculum active and engaging because that sets students on a pathway for lifelong learning. We also, our elementary kids, when they come into preschool and kindergarten, some have never been in a school setting before, so it's also where they learn how to navigate peer relationships, build friendships, and learn what it's like to be a member of a community. Again, all of our programs really work to promote critical thinking skills, help students evaluate and problem solve, and that looks different depending on kids' age and developmental level. Our operating budget, this is the fiscal 2026 operating budget, $16,234,378. So that you, some of you may have more experience in school budgeting than others, but the school budgets are funded by multiple different sources. First, we are well aware, local property tax. That's a big portion of school funding. In addition to that, the largest state revenue system for funding public education is Chapter 70. Chapter 70, I'll get into a little bit more how that works, but Chapter 70, the state calculates with the Chapter 70 formula what's called the foundation budget. The foundation budget is it's formula driven, and it is, for each district, calculates what the costs would be, or the anticipated cost, to provide an adequate education for the students in the town. So it's not a high bar, it's just the foundation. From there, the formula calculates what the required local contribution should be, so what Norfolk should be responsible for of that foundation budget, and then Chapter 70 aid fills the gap between the local required contribution and the foundation budget. Most communities spend beyond the foundation budget because it's pretty clear and well known that the foundation budget has not kept up with inflation or with actual rising educational costs. So it's an underestimate. There has been a lot of advocacy, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, at the state level to relook at Chapter 70 funding. Last month, Dr. Cameron from Rentham joined me in testifying at a state Chapter 70 hearing, advocating for the disproportionate negative impact that the current formula has had on small suburban communities and rural communities. Significant funding is going into gateway cities and larger urban areas. Education spending in those areas is growing, where education spending in small suburban communities and rural communities is actually declining significantly. So I have copies of that testimony. The select board also joined the school committee in writing a letter advocating for the state to reconsider. They're in the process of looking at that now, and there's definitely ways the community can get involved, so I'll share some information on that after. Beyond local property taxes in Chapter 78, the state has another program called Special Education Circuit Breaker. That is a reimbursement program to schools and districts that is for students who the cost of their educational programming significantly exceeds the foundation budget expectations. It is delayed, so we submit the circuit breaker claim, and it's a reimbursement the following fiscal year. The Special Ed Circuit Breaker has not been fully funded at the state level for a number of years. So there's advocacy around that as well. And then beyond that, we have federal grants and funds that we receive that we apply for every year. Title I, II, III, and IV, as well as IDEA, which provides funding for pre-K and special education.
What are the different titles?
Title I, II, III, and IV, and they all have different parameters for the grants. Title I, in Norfolk, we use to provide supplementary educational services for students that are at risk or struggling to meet grade level expectations in math. But Title I has different ways that every district has to apply, and it has to be supplemental, not supplant the district budget. Title II is sometimes used as the class size reduction grant. In Norfolk, we also use that for professional development programming and to support teacher high quality instructional strategies in classrooms. Title IV has been used for PD, emergency and safety training in Norfolk over the last couple of years. We have not received Title III. We did not get Title III last year. We did apply as a consortium for some Title III funds to support the English Language Learner Parent Advisory Council. But as an individual district, we weren't
I have a
eligible.
question.
Yeah.
So I think you said Title II is for further, is that for further education for teachers, like seminars and things? Or
It can
do
be
you use
used,
that-
so there are broad parameters to the grant, and every district applies for the grant to use it in the way that's most meaningful for their district. We use it to bring in outside professional development. We have a new English language, we have a new English language arts core curriculum. We've used it to bring professionals in to provide training and support for our staff in implementing that new curriculum.
Oh, actually for the okay.
Yes, for the teachers.
Thank you.
Sure. The overall school budgets are a large portion of every town's resources and dollars. So wanted to give you a sense of how the budget breaks down. Almost all of the school district budget, and I'm sure this is true for KP as well, is fixed costs. It means it goes to salaries. So when you look at this, professional salaries, which would be teachers and administrators, comprise 71% of our total operating budget. 3.5% are clerical salaries. 11.5% are other salaries. So that would be food service, custodial, nursing, other staff services. So the vast majority of our overall budget is fixed costs for salaries. 8.7% of that operating budget is for contracted services. That is our bus transportation contract that provides mandated transportation for students back and forth to school. 2.8%, let me just see, is 2.9% is for supplies. So our entire supply budget, paper, copy materials, instructional supplies, is only 2.9% of the total operating budget. Other expenses, 0.7, those are contractual benefits per the teacher's contract, sick leave benefits, things like that. And then we've worked really hard in Norfolk, and I think we're really proud of the fact that we've built internal special education programs it's in the best interest of students and families in the district for students to be able to attend their home school and participate with their community. So we've built programs to keep students in district. We only have 1% of our operating budget that goes to out-of-district tuitions. We do have some students who we just can't program for because their needs are really unique, or they require services that we don't have available within the district. But we are committed to keeping students in their homeschool districts. Again, every year it is difficult to create a balanced budget. We have a lot of different cost drivers. Enrollment in Norfolk has been steadily growing, which has required us to add teaching positions, add additional support positions, and the town's ability to pay. There's certainly many demands on town revenue. The town has been stretched thin for operating budgets for a number of years. So we've worked hard to try to generate cost savings that allow us, what we talk about is to preserve the instructional core. So when we're making reductions, we are trying to protect class size ratio, our teaching positions, our staff positions, our support positions, and our curriculum and instruction. And we've tried to find creative ways to generate savings outside of that. So as I said, we have worked to develop a shared position. Our facilities director that used to be full-time for the schools is now less than half-time and is shared with the town, which generated savings on both sides. We also have a shared custodial staff position that we share with the town, and we stagger that schedule. So that person works Tuesday through Saturday, and that's generated savings for us on weekend overtime costs. We, again, regionalized the school lunch program, which generated savings. We also partner as best we can with the King Philip Regional Schools and Plainville and Rentham to cost share some mandated professional development. We just in November, I think it was November 4th, right, did a shared professional development day where teachers from all 4 districts came together at King Philip and were able to take advantage of an array of different workshops. But that saves costs for us because we're sharing the cost of bringing presenters in and also leveraging in-house talent. Again, last year we restructured the business and HR office. We no longer have an HR director or an assistant business manager. We have specialists. for both those positions, and we restructured the assistant superintendent to a director of curriculum. Again, you can see these cost savings. We've tried really hard not to impact curriculum instruction and teaching positions. If you look at per pupil budget comparisons, and this again overlaps with what we've talked about with Chapter 70 and the shortfalls on the state side for state aid, the Department of Education helps districts identify like school districts for comparison purposes. These are our comparison school districts that are assigned to us by DESE. If you look in, all of these are either K-6 or K-8 districts, so the financials are much more comparable than you would be if you're looking at a district that has a high school and athletic programs and everything else. So these are our K-6 or K-8 programs that are our comparisons. The per pupil spending, this comes from the end of year state report that all districts are required to submit to the state, and we're required to have independently audited. It's all of the money the district takes in. So the town's portion of the operating budget, as well as any grants that we receive. So this accounts for the all-in dollar amount divided by your number of students. If you look at that, you can see that Norfolk is in the bottom of our comparison communities in terms of per pupil spending. We work really hard to stretch those educational dollars, and I'll share some ways that we do that coming up. Just to help visually, you can see all the communities in green are spending under the state average. So what you're starting to see is this trend where districts, these small suburban communities that are disadvantaged by the Chapter 70 formula are now falling below the state average, where other districts in our gateway cities are increasing revenue spending.
So I just want to
Sure.
make one comment here.
Yeah.
Just because you're in the lowest part of the cohort
Yep.
doesn't mean your scores are low. There are towns on there that have higher
Yep.
per pupil spending that are lower than us, right, in their scores.
Yeah, per pupil spending does not have a direct correlation to achievement. So we're going to talk about when we get there. There's a lot of creative things that we've done to try to enrich our instruction
So it's
and
not
leverage.
It's not a one-to-one thing.
No.
How much money you spend, your kids are going to get that right.
It's not a direct correlation. Now, there's certainly a lot more resources in some of these communities that are high performing, that have additional English reading specialists, math coaches, resources, and there is a relationship between what you can bring in and achievement, but it isn't a direct correlation.
Right. And
Yeah.
the other thing we just wanted to mention that, the state is forcing us to increase our population in these small towns.
Yeah.
By the Communities Act
Mhm.
and by Chapter 40B.
Yeah.
And yet they don't want to fund us.
Yeah,
They're saying you're gonna have more
Massachusetts.
people, you're going to have more kids going to class.
Yeah.
We're forcing you to do this, and yet they won't give us the money. right?
Yep. And I will give information about who to reach out to if you want to participate in like that advocacy around Chapter 70. But Massachusetts as a state overall does not, we're not in the highest percentage of state spending towards education with many other states in comparison. So it's definitely happy to talk to anybody who's interested, but we are really trying to advocate for a fairer and more equitable funding solution. So again, this is Chapter 70. I've kind of talked about this, so I'll jump over it. Chapter 78, just to kind of pull out, comprises only 23% of the total operating budget in Norfolk. I won't get into deep depth about it. Again,
How does that compare to Rentham and any of the other towns at the 23%?
I believe that Rentham is also a minimum aid community. I don't know exactly what percentage of their budget is funded. But minimum aid communities are not receiving significant increases from the Student Opportunity Act that's trying to raise the per pupil dollar amount. So Rentham's in that boat. I'm not sure about Plainville. But compared to other gateway cities, it's significantly less. Did I jump over something? Oh, so again, the state hosted these listening sessions. Again, I have a copy if you want to see some of the arguments that we made around the Chapter 70 formula and why it disadvantages small suburban communities that lack economies of scale. There's a lot of information in here, as well as the letter that the Select Board and School Committee sent. There is currently a Chapter 70 public comment open at mass.gov. So if you want to submit comments, you can submit them through December to that address. And they are, again, they've had 4 listening sessions, a significant amount of testimony across the state, and they are accepting comments.
So you're listening, do you think you're hearing?
I do think there is some movement. I do think that they are looking at this data and thinking about how to address it. But always the more advocacy and the more support, the stronger the voice, the more impact we have. Again, we have really worked hard to try to enrich and stretch our educational dollars through competitive grants. We have a beautiful makerspace in the Freeman Kennedy. We have brought in engineering and design projects. We have 3D printing. We have robotics. A large portion of the equipment that we have in that was written by our technology integration specialists to competitive grants across the state. And she's received a lot of grant funds to purchase equipment. She was also selected to participate, and she's one of, there was a large number of teachers who applied. She was selected for training through the Museum of Science to be trained on their YES engineering design curriculum, and then was able to procure some grants to bring that curriculum into the districts. And PTO generously supplemented some additional grant funding to bring that in, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. We've worked with the facilities department to buy some critical emergency equipment through grants through Maya and our insurance company. We've received a lot of mental health grants. We partnered with King Philip, Plainville, and Rentham to write a mental health grant, which brought in about $300,000 to help us fund the startup of a regional wellness director position, as well as a regional social worker to support our families. The funds available for that grant have diminished with time, but we continue to apply for that and receive that fund annually. We also have had many cultural enrichment grants that we've written and received for an artist in residence who, you can see some of the artwork students did. We also have had authors in residence. So we, through competitive grants, supplement the operating budget. This is, again, the engineering and design process, so I'll let you hear from some of our kids for a few minutes. This program is grant funded, and we've brought in kits at every level that ask kids to, through science and through math, to explore concept and develop solutions. It's really robust and rich, so I think it's exciting to hear about, so I'll let you hear from our students.
Hi, I'm Emma. And I'm Finn. We were in 3rd grade last year, which means we got to do an awesome magnetic dog door project.
Our challenge was to design a special door for a dog shelter. The door had to be easy for a dog to open, but strong enough to keep out sneaky rats.
We used magnets to help us make it work. We used engineering design to help the dogs. That means we use 6 steps.
Hi, I'm Eliana, and steps for the engineering design process are ask, imagine, plan, create, test, improve. In the next step, my clips and my friends and I will tell you exactly what we did for each step.
Hi, I'm Natalie. The project we want to share with you is the magnetic dog doors. The hardest part was figuring out the problem. The biggest rule was the door had to be easy for the dog to push open, but it also had to close really tight to keep any rats out. It was like solving 2 puzzles at once.
Oh, gosh.
Now they're studying force and magnets, obviously.
The next step was imagine. We brainstormed lots of ways the door could open and close. How can we make it easy for a big dog but hard for something small like a rat? We drew different ideas for the flaps and where to put the magnets and to make the doors stay closed. We had our own ideas, but we had to imagine with our partner on the final design.
Hi, I'm Charlie. After we brainstormed lots of ideas, the plan was when we picked the best one. We had to agree exactly where to put the magnets to keep the rats out. We needed the flap in the door frame to attract each other so the door would snap closed. We also knew that we had to have the magnets repel so the dog could open the door. Planning helped us measure and get ready to build.
Hi, I'm Grayson. Finally, it's time to create. We made the door. We made the door frame and cut the flap. It was tricky to line up the magnets perfectly because even if they were even a little bit off, the door wouldn't close right. We had to make sure the magnets on the flap and the frame were facing the right way to attract each other. We used what we learned from magnets to make the design just right. After we built our model doors, we had to test them. We had to make sure the dogs could open and close the doors again and again.
We figured out we needed the magnets to repel. We attached a magnet on the dog's collar and a magnet with the same pole on the door frame.
We also had to keep the rats out by keeping the door closed. That meant the magnet on the flap had to strongly attract the magnet on the door frame.
If the pull wasn't strong enough, a little rat could probably nudge it open, so we knew we needed a strong force of attraction. The last step was to improve. Once we saw what went wrong in the test, we fixed it. My team accidentally put 2 magnets in backward, and then they would repel each other, pushing the door away from the frame.
You flipped one of them so they would attract and pull the door shut to keep those rats out. We learned that being an engineer means always making your design better and fixing your mistakes.
Thank you for taking the time to learn about our project. Have a great day.
Oh my goodness.
So again, the engineering, design, and critical thinking are core components. We do have a science curriculum, but we supplement that with the Museum of Science and the best materials that are available at no cost for our students because they're currently grant funded. So that gives you a sense of some of the things that we've been doing.
Did they make the door?
They did, and then they
And
tested it and they showcased their designs. It was a really great experience for our students. And at every grade level, we're piloting different units from the Museum of Science now. We have students designing a water purification system to clean water, all sorts of different projects.
Wow.
Now let me just see if I can jump back in. And just some statistics, I think Jackie brought this up earlier. We do continue in Norfolk to outperform the state in ELA math and science on the MCAS exams. We do have strong research-based programs for social emotional learning at all of our grade levels. We have low rates of student discipline and bullying in our schools. We have outstanding art and music programs. You're going to hear more about the KP music program, I think, a little bit later. We have high student attendance rate with an average of 95.1%. 91% of our teachers have advanced degrees, and 53 have been with us for over 10 years. We are very proud that our teacher retention rate is 95.5%. So when educators come to us, because we have rich professional development, strong culture, they stay. Lots of ways to get involved in our schools. We have volunteers that work in our library and at recess and lunch and special programs. We also have people come in to share career expertise through our AIM program, which is a program students participate in on a weekly basis. We have a Parent Leaders Council that's district-wide, and that's open to anybody that's interested in attending. And then we have school councils at both the H. Allardi and the Freeman Kennedy schools. Through the senior tax program, people can work at the schools and earn tax credits. We're working to try to strengthen that program and expand opportunities there. Projects, we are struggling with a space shortage, driven primarily by the growth in enrollment and the continued growth that we are expecting to see. So we do have some overcrowding that we are managing in our schools. Last year, with the opening of the Bay State Shelter, we strongly advocated to the state to help us with a solution to the educational, at least a temporary solution to address some of the critical space needs. The select board, the town administrator, all supported that advocacy, and we did receive a $250,000 grant from the state, which allowed us to renovate. At the Freeman Kennedy School, there was an old cable studio that's behind the school. It's behind the gym. The state funded the renovation, which allowed us to move the district special education offices out of this building over to Freeman Kennedy. In doing that, we were able to pick up a couple of office spaces, which were critically needed because we have people whose offices were on the back of the stage, as well as a therapeutic speech and language suite, which has allowed us to reclaim a partial classroom for additional services. We did apply to MSBA multiple times. Unfortunately, given the current economic climate, the building project that we were hoping to move forward did not pass at the ballot. We have submitted another application to the Mass School Building Authority to see if they will cost share funding. They make their decisions in December. We're waiting for results on that application. At the same time, across the state, I think it's more than 60% of schools are over 50 years old. There's a lot of critical need. So whether or not we are selected as a priority for MSBA, we're hopeful, but it's tough. They did send a team of senior design engineers and board members to tour the schools, and we just are waiting and have our fingers crossed. Again, that's the renovations that I just talked about that freed up some educational space at H. Allardi. And at the end of the night, if anybody's interested, I'm happy to take people on a tour of the school. And there's my contact information, our business manager, if you have specific questions that require more depth of expertise on state funding formulas than I can potentially answer. And those are in the handouts as well. All right, so before we turn it over to Rich, Anita told me to give people a break to get food and water. So this is your food and water break.
Feel free at any time to chime in with questions. My name's Rich Drolet. This is my third year as superintendent for the King Philip Regional School District. With me tonight is Jill Brilliant. She's the finance director for the school system. This is her first year, and she's doing a fantastic job. So I just wanted to start by sharing my core values as an educator, and my core values are, I believe, firmly in respect and respecting differences, communicating well with everyone, collaborating in a collegial manner, so like not just congenially, like being nice to each other, but like working towards a goal to get things done for kids. And then lastly, knowing that what's most important is what happens in the classroom between the teachers and the students. There's nothing more important than that. And so those are just some of my kind of core beliefs. Before I started with the handout and the presentation, I did want to share, and this is on our website, I started in 2023. And last year in 2024, we did a new strategic plan. So it's the 2024 to 2029 5-year strategic plan. And there's just a summary page in the back. We got lots of great feedback. Over 1,000 people took a survey that we sent out a year and a half ago, including our students. And this last slide just summarizes what we came up with as our core values: respect and responsibility, being student-centered, communicating effectively, innovative thinking, collaboration, well-being and belonging, and striving for excellence. And then our vision: inspired to learn, empowered to explore, prepared to succeed. And then our 4 strategic focus areas that are detailed in the plan, which is teaching, learning, and leading, communication and community, finance, facilities and human resources, and culture and wellness. So I just wanted to share this summary page because we did do a new 5-year strategic plan last year, and we are now in year 2 of it. Next, this document is, I believe, what the handout was. So just to go through some of these slides, and again, at any point, ask questions. When I get to the finance calculations of the assessments, that's why I brought Jill, because it can be complicated, and I have backup slides if you wanted to really get into that. But as a district, these are our staff members: 173 teachers, 47 teacher assistants, 60 administrators, 11 secretaries, 14 custodians, and we have our own food service providers for the food And our district offices, Jill and I, we are in the basement of the middle school. Our district offices are in Norfolk, so it's convenient coming here. There's myself, there's Jill. The other two women, Nicole Bottomley is the high school principal, and then at the end is Michelle Cruiser, the middle school principal. Nicole Bottomley's been there 3 years, and Michelle Cruiser's been there about 7 years. And they are both great principals. I really work closely with them. We talk daily, meet weekly, and they're really doing a good job. Just an overall summary of the operating budget. 39.2 million. We get about this is for FY26, I believe. We get about just under $1,900,000 in revenue. So that brings it down to 38.3 million. We got 8.2 million in that Chapter 70 state aid that Dr. Allardi mentioned. We are also a hold harmless district, which means that we are not getting major increases in state aid with this Student Opportunity Act. In fact, our proportion of our budget, it used to be about 25%, and we're down to about 22% paid by state aid, which tells you it's increased needing to be paid by local aid. So after state aid, it's 30.1 million. As a regional school district, we do get annually approximately 2 million. This year we got 1.8 million in transportation reimbursement. So that's 31.9 million overall. And when you do the local assessments, there's three main factors that go into that. Student enrollment being a major factor in it, but this past year, 11.2 million from Norfolk, 8.1 million from Plainville, and 12.6 million from Rentham. Obviously, we have the most students from Rentham. Second to that is Norfolk, and then Plainville, the fewest number of students. This is just a slide. Foundation enrollment, that's how many students from each town. And then there's something at aggregated wealth, and then municipal revenue growth factor. These are all things that, those are the three main things I believe that contribute to the funding formula for the regional school district. This is just a summary slide from the past 7 or 8 years, which shows you each year the overall budget variance, like so like last year, our budget went up 4.13%, but then in terms of the towns, Norfolk, it was 5.19. Plainville was the smallest, less than 1%. Oops, I don't want. Every time I touch one of these, it goes haywire. So I'll go to the next slide and come back and see if it fixes itself. Rentham got the highest assessment last year. Overall, you can see Plainville's has been higher on average, 4.87% over the past 8 years. Rentham the lowest, 3.72%, and Norfolk in the middle. These are average annual assessment increases. I do have other slides where I could get into more detail if you want in a few minutes. The last major renovations from 2004 to 2006 at both the middle school and the high school, that's rolling off the taxes now, this year. So you would see that assessment might be a little bit lower if there's no debt to be paid annually. The last one was 20 years from those renovations. However, we do have building needs. We're not going to be going for a new school anytime, and hopefully any of our lifetimes, maybe Nick's back there, but we want to maintain our buildings, and they are in good shape. Some things coming up, we did, and I have slides to go over, we did apply for and get accepted for MSBA for both roofs at both schools and also heat pump conversions at both schools. I'll share the detail in a minute. Something coming up in the future, it is 9 years old now. Our high school turf field, which was installed in 2016, we're gonna have to replace that. And I think that's around 1 to 2 million nowadays, not for a brand new turf field, just to replace the carpet, and then we might look into redoing the track, maybe bleachers too, but that will be an upcoming thing as part of 5 to 10 year capital improvement plan that we're going to put together. We're going to do a new facilities conditions assessment and then help put together a 5 to 10 year capital improvement plan. So in the future, those would be things you would see for funding requests from King Philip Regional. And I'm going to get into details with the MSBA in a minute. I have a couple slides for that. Just some things that we excel at and are known for. Of course, sports. In particular, we've done well recently, football, baseball. Band and music, in particular, jazz band, marching band. Our drama performances are excellent. Our high school's DECA program. And we also have, we might have just as many or more AP courses than any high school in the state. We're up there. So these are things that we're proud of and we excel at. Our middle school has done a great job. They have interdisciplinary teams. So Nick's on the orange team. So it's like 4 core teachers. So when they come to middle school, a math, a science, an English language arts, and a social studies teacher, they all share about 100 kids. And they work closely with those groups of kids. So it's not just like our middle school has 700 kids. They're not just all randomly mixed in classes. They're on these smaller interdisciplinary teams, which the research shows, it's a little bit kind of like more like an elementary school than a high school. The research shows that's what's best for students. We have a positive behavioral interventions and supports program at our middle school, which they've started and is really doing well. And we have some good STEM classes we've added, and we've got some grants for those. I did include a few links. I included a picture of the football team the last time we won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. We are playing tomorrow night at Gillette Stadium in the Division III Super Bowl against North Attleboro. I think it's supposed to be like -5 degrees with the wind chill, but we will be there, and I hope that we win another Super Bowl. This would be our 4th, I think, in 8 or 9 years.
It's at 7:45 and it's going to be on TV and radio.
Yes, thank you. And I could have gotten you tickets to the Thanksgiving game or the Final Four game, but I can't get tickets to the Gillette game.
I hope they have hand warmers.
I know. I'm thinking especially of the kids on the bench that maybe. Yeah, and I remember 2 years ago, last year, we lost, but it was extremely cold as well. I did want to play one video. I don't know if any of you saw this. This is a great video that WBZ came and interviewed, in particular our jazz band. We have a great director. Oh, let's see. I think I'm muted. Of course, you have to watch the commercial first. It's just 3 minutes.
The neighborhood hero. And the out-of-towners. And it all comes together.
This is highlighting our jazz band at our high school. They're phenomenal. They've qualified the top 10 jazz bands in the country at the Essentially Ellington Festival the past 2 years.
One Massachusetts high school band program is racking up awards and national recognition.
Yeah, but as Jason shows us, the students aren't in it for the glory. For them, it is all about the music.
It happens here, Rentham, a popular mecca for discount shopping and former home to both Helen Keller and John Cena. The town was first incorporated back in 1673 after settlers purchased the land from Wampanoag chief Metacomet, also known as King Philip. He's the namesake for King Philip Regional High School, is home of one of the country's most highly acclaimed band programs. This is just an average practice day for the high school jazz band. I've been hearing great things about these, quote, cool cats, and as a former band kid myself, I had to come check them out in person.
I think one thing that sets King Philip apart is the sustained excellence across everything that we do.
That's band director Michael Keogh. He says his students work incredibly hard to sound so good, and they're passionate about what they do.
I think it feels really surreal to kind of be given kind of this opportunity.
That program is flourishing, and just this month, the King Philip High School Marching Band was named national champion for the 2nd straight year. And the jazz band was a finalist in the prestigious Essentially Ellington High School Jazz Band Festival.
What do you think drives that success? Leadership from older students to younger students. The leadership that starts obviously from Mr. Keogh.
Mr. Keogh's take is the students have themselves to thank for putting in the time and the effort.
I think that students on all levels are driven to be a part of something that's of high quality.
And looking around at this group of musicians, you see students, but you hear professionals.
All right, kids, hit it.
As I listened to these teens put their heart and soul into the performance, it made me miss my years as a drum major, band conductor, and saxophone player. Luckily, the band said they have room for one more. The verdict?
And I thought your effort was really outstanding. I think that talent's all relative. You had some tough competition out there.
They told me it's not just music that brings them joy, it's how much the band program matters to the community.
It feels really great that I can be a part of something people look at and go, wow, look what they're providing to our town.
The national recognition doesn't hurt either.
The accolades, the medals, I'm not going to pretend they're not nice, but I think the direction of this program always has and always will be just make good music, play good music at the highest level possible, and I can't think of a better accolade than that.
At the end of the day, it's about loving music and making it a part of your life, even if you're like me and a little bit rusty.
Nobody ever regrets playing an instrument. People only regret giving it up. So find the way that music drives you and make it your own.
That was been so fun.
Listen, and to say that...
I'll stop there. That was a great quote. Mr. Keogh, phenomenal band director. No one regrets playing an instrument. They just regret giving it up. We all probably have been there before. I know I have. You know, just like our football coach, Brian Lee is phenomenal as well. Everything is about working hard and teaching kids that you get out of it what you put into it. So our band program is phenomenal. And one other, well, just while I have the video, our athletics every week, it's called KPSN, King Philip Sports Network. Every week we have a video teacher that with the students, they put together a 10-minute video to highlight how the sports teams did from the previous week. So on our website here, under the athletics page, I'll just show you a quick clip. And we put the 4 most recent ones chronologically backwards in order. So this is just a video.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of KPSN. During the season of gratitude and tradition, we gather not just around tables, but around history. For our Tri-Town community, tomorrow's game isn't just about turkey or family recipes passed down for generations. It's about football, it's about pride, and about the legacy written by every warrior who has played for King Philip on Thanksgiving Day. For our seniors, this is 4 years in the making, a final chapter etched in green and gold. For our fans, this is rivalry and tradition.
So I'll stop it, but every week we put out a video from our high school that highlights how the sports teams did from the week before, and this was the most recent one after the Thanksgiving Day game against Franklin. So they put together a nice video too. If you ever wanted to watch those, they're on our website. So I'll go back to the slides now. Let's see here. I have some links here to, we do press releases with positive stories about things, and we put these on our website, and you can follow, and they go on Facebook and things like that. So I had mentioned, we saw the video on the jazz band. There's also things on our marching band. We recently highlighted because they won a national championship in New Jersey. Our marching band is excellent as well. Mr. Keogh is involved with that. And we just try to do positive press releases on, trying to get used to this computer, on different things. So when you see a link, this is where we acknowledged we got a medal for our AP courses. There's an article on positive behavioral interventions and supports, STEM classes as well. So I just wanted to highlight some of our things that we excel at. And let's see if I can. And then this is this is a picture of our school committee meeting. What ways could you be involved if you were interested? Our schools have something called school councils, and they work on school improvement plans, and they meet monthly. And that's comprised about half of teachers and staff, and the other half parents or community members. So if you're interested in being the high school or the middle school school council, you don't have to be a parent, you could be a community member, and if you reach out to the principal, I'm sure they could talk to you about how you could participate in those school council meetings. And you could always attend any like tomorrow night, I'm going to the football game at Gillette, the Super Bowl. This weekend, we have Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday annual play. Excellent. I think it's Mary Poppins this weekend, so I'll be going to that Sunday. So if you ever want to go to sporting events and such, it's a good thing to participate in. And then lastly, I wanted to go over, let's see, I put this together for our last school committee meeting, and this is about the MSBA for King Philip. So we were accepted into roof for the middle school, roof for the high school, heat pump conversion for the middle school, heat pump conversion for the high school. But until we pay for schematic design costs and they assign us a project manager and a design team, we're on our own to come up with how much this might cost as an estimate. And of course, when we were accepted into MSBA, the 3 town managers, first thing what they want to know is how much is this going to cost? So my school committee chair, Mr. Lehan, myself, and Jill, Miss Brilliant, we met with the MSBA, so this is our best guesstimate at this time for the future. So the middle school, it's based on the roof area. So this is middle school roof. They told us to use $60 a square foot, $8.8 million for a new middle school roof. Both the middle school and high school roofs are now over 20 years old. There are some leaks and patch jobs we've had to do. But anyway, we would get 51% reimbursement from the state, MSBA. So that would be about after the reimbursement, it would be about $4.3 million as an estimate now. We had a school committee meeting Monday night, and I think it was a smart choice. The school committee agreed to fund the schematic design, the first phase, so that we don't have to ask the towns for money at Springtown meeting. It's about $175,000. We ended last year with about $1 million in E&D. Every regional school system has to maintain its excess and deficiency fund. It's our only rainy day fund if anything were to ever happen in an emergency, to not have to go right to town meeting for funding. So we have about $1 million. Working closely with Miss Brilliant, we're expecting to have about $1.5 million at the end of this year based on last year. So having it can be as high as about 2.5 million or 5% of our overall budget. So we have between 1 and 1.5 million in there. So we're saying that we will use 175,000 of that for the schematic design, the first part for the middle school roofs. Then, moving forward, once our school committee votes to do that, in the spring of 2027, is when we would most likely have to ask the towns, after we get the full costs, which is around this amount, for town funding, and we need 2 out of 3 towns to vote for that to get it. And then it would go on to the tax rolls in the future.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. Yep.
$60 a square foot for the roof. I just put a roof on a couple of years ago.
Yep.
That seems very high.
So our facilities manager from some companies did say, hey, I'm getting quotes as low as $38 to $40 a square foot. Us with MSBA paying 51%, right? That is still us paying 49% of $60 a foot is better than us paying all of $38 or $40 a foot. Do you know what I'm mathematically? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, because if you pay $30 a foot, square foot, the school building committee won't. I mean, the state MSB, what'd you call it?
MSBA. Yeah.
MSBA won't pay.
Well, they'll pay 51%, but the estimated cost they told us to use is 60. So that's based on historical data of roofs being done by MSBA in the past number of years.
I got this for you, I could do it much easier.
No. But what I'm saying is, when you factor in the reimbursement.
I understand that, I understand
right.
that, but I'd rather factor it in when it's $30 than when it's 60, right?
Yeah. Nowadays, also with MSBA, they're requiring all roofs that they put on to be, not to have solar, for example, but to be solar ready, to have the hookups, I believe, the electrical outlets or whatever it is, to be able to add solar. I'm just letting you know, that's a requirement from MSBA.
So,
Yes.
So if you get money from them, you have to do it through the contractor's site?
Yes, they assign us OPM, an owner's project manager, and they assign us a design team, and we have to work with who they assign us with, as opposed
But you
to.
don't have, with MSBA, you haven't bid the project out yet. So
Right.
they're giving you, my experience is they want you to estimate at the high end, but when it's bid, you'll have an actual. And
Yeah,
it could
this
be
is
less than $60.
This is all estimates
Yeah.
from me after I talked to the MSBA to try to get the best estimate. And you'll see when I get to the heat pump conversion, it's even higher of an estimate, which is why we're probably going to hold off on that.
Okay, so I understand the question. In other words, $40 a foot is a heck of a lot better than 60. In other words, if a bid comes in and it's lower, then
Absolutely.
yay.
Yes.
But who decides which bid to take? You know, how is that decided?
It's all lowest qualified bidder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my other question, which is about a heat pump, I mean, basically the cost of electricity right now is insane.
Well, we're
So
not going to
heat
do the
pumps
heat
don't
pump.
really
I'll get to that in a second, but to your point, the school committee Monday night decided we're going to hold off on that. And I'll show you the number.
I mean,
Sure.
we have a solar farm going in that we can't even access because it's private.
And this is
So-
if you look at this is the high school numbers. Go ahead, Jack.
So reinforce my first point, $60 a square foot is outrageous,
Yeah.
even if you gotta put out stuff. Number two, you talked about the OPM on the school building addition that was shot down last year. Everybody said you have to get an OPM and you have to pay for it. And the OPM cost of that was like $1 million for the OPM.
That was
Now,
an estimate too, but
I
yeah.
called the state at that time, and I said, can we use our own OPM? They said, what do you mean? I said, like our building inspector. They said, if he's certified, you can use a town resident if he's got 3 years' experience.
Yeah.
And you can use your own OPM, save $1 million. I said, what if he doesn't have a certification, or he doesn't have the training? Then if he's got 7 years' experience, you can use your own OPM.
So the only thing that matters is whether you're building with MSBA. Because if you're building with that, if you're building privately, you can certainly do that. If you're building with MSBA, there are different regulations. So it depends on the projects. They have higher standards if they're going to invest state money in what materials you use, the life expectancy of those materials, things like that. But
you have to use theirs because
I believe for if it's state funded, you have to use the one that they assign, and they have particular OPMs that they have vetted, that have good DCAM ratings, that have been reviewed by other projects. So if they're funding half the project, then my understanding, but I have to double check, is that you have to use theirs.
That's my understanding. I had a meeting with them, and that you have to use who they assign you.
You don't have a choice because it's.
If you're going to get this reimbursement, yes, you have to use who they're assigning.
But if we had done the building project on our own, then you would have more flexibility.
In my previous district, we did a building project on our own, a building addition. We did not use MSBA, and yes, you can.
You had your own OPM.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You still go out to bid and things like that. Okay, so the high school, you can see this is a 189,000 square foot roof. Again, about 60 a foot, 11.3 million total, but 51% MSP reimbursement, about 5.5 million to the 3 towns. Keep in mind that's divided among the 3 towns. This is estimated $200,000 we would pay, not ask the towns, King Philip would pay from our E&D funds. So this is just letting you know. Yep.
So when it goes to vote, if one of the towns, it does not pass, but the other 2 towns pass it, then the third town has to
Correct.
still get
The
it.
assessment, yeah. It's 2/3, just like our budget, has to be 2 out of 3 towns passes the budget. Okay, now, the next 2 slides I'm going to show you, the heat pump conversion,
Hold on.
we're not doing it.
Okay.
We're not doing it. However, we applied for it and we got 51% reimbursement. And before I show you the numbers, the reason being, we've talked to some OPMs, contractors, companies, and this is the very first time, the 2025 MSBA, they're not doing boiler replacements anymore. They're only doing heat pump conversion. They're trying to have more going green and clean energy. However, from some companies we've talked to, this is a new thing. There's no historical analysis or data where they've done heat pump conversions for entire schools. And would we get rid of our oil at the middle school and gas at the high school, or would we still keep it as a backup or a supplemental heating system? It's still a lot of unknowns. Also, in the dead of winter, with the heat pumps, the electric heat, be able to do it, and would it really be more cost effective? It would bring in air conditioning to our schools. However, look at these numbers. So this isn't just the roof, this is the total square. The numbers they gave us range anywhere from $30 to $200 a square foot. So they told us to go with 150 as a high estimate. So you can see our middle school would be 25 million, after the reimbursement, 12 million. And we would have had to ask the towns, they said, for 2%, which would be 498,000. That's just for schematic design this spring. So therefore, the school committee said, we're not going to do that now. So we could always apply again in the future.
How old is the current system?
So at our middle school, we have 3 boilers, I believe, at each building. Our middle school are with COVID, so they're less than 5 years old for the boilers, and that's oil. For our high school, which is gas, they're more like 20 years old. And there's 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing, did they tell you that if...
I'm going to put the high school numbers up now, just so you see how they
Yeah.
We're not doing this, but we were approved for MSBA.
If you get reimbursement, or you know they advertise, you get a heat pump, you get, I don't know, $10,000
Yeah.
off of it, $12,000.
I don't think they still.
But they will not allow you to keep a backup system. In oil and gas, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would go.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of that, or they won't.
And there's no historical data, so I believe, I couldn't find any schools in Massachusetts that they've done sections of schools and sections of buildings with heat pumps, but they couldn't give us any that have gone full school to heat pumps. One of the other thing where the MSBA is trying to promote this is they say the best time to do it is when you're replacing your roof, because on the rooftop is when you're putting the HVAC and all the electrical stuff. So anyway, we're not going forward with the heat pump conversion, but we were accepted for MSBA for both the roofs and the heat pumps, and the school committee said we're going to go forward with the roofs, the building envelope, and not necessarily the extras, and then maybe we could apply again in 2 years for the heat pump conversion.
I have a question.
Yep.
I know for me personally, as a private homeowner, I've been trying to get green energy, and I'm finding that a lot of the, what do you call them, the perks for if you get green energy and that a lot of that has gone away. Present state, but now does the school?
I don't know of any perks that we would get to do the heat pumps.
I think
Except
they've gone away.
the idea is you're going all to electrical heat, and the idea, but there's not data.
I'm talking actually solar, or bringing in green, or being part of the grid and putting back green.
Right. So how much more would our electrical bills go up compared to what we spend now on oil and gas is kind of where we're wondering where the savings would be too. But I don't know of any rebates or anything like that. So
Rebates, thank you.
yeah. If you were interested, I do have a few more slides on the details of the assessments. But it's pretty complicated. But I talked about the 3 main factors, and then did anyone have any other questions regarding anything I've shared?
Well, the bottom line for homeowners is how much is our taxes going to go up? I think they're going up 12% in Norfolk, is that
No.
what it is?
No.
Nope,
No?
No.
No,
nothing
Yeah.
to do with the school right now.
No, I
School
mean,
budget.
just, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and we, just to let you know, 2 years ago, when I first started to balance the budget, we had to cut 20 positions. So last year was a better budget year, so we were able to restore 6 or 7 of those positions. So we're still trying to restore some positions. At the same time, our enrollment has gone down. There's enrollment at the secondary level in particular has gone down in most places. There's more choice and options, and there's fewer students than there used to be. So our enrollment now we're down to about 1,900 students. And I think at an all-time high, it might have been more like 2,600.
Private schools?
It's just down. I mean, I think Norfolk Elementary is an exception where yours has gone up. But there's, Tri-County's building a big brand new school, and they're accepting 1,000 instead of, their enrollment will be 1,000 instead of 900, so they'll be accepting a few more students. But there's more choice at the high school level. Another important thing to note is out of our, you saw a $39 million budget, $5 million of it is to pay for costly out-of-district placements for students. Yeah, for special education students too. So
I was going to ask you about that.
every student's different, and I'm not trying to fault that. It's just that those have, while our budgets have gone up, 3 or 4% a year, those out-of-district tuition costs have gone up exponentially, more like 10, 15% a year. So that's something that is a struggle for all districts as well. So that's about $5 million of our budget.
Do you find it a problem when the state makes mandates that they don't fund?
Absolutely.
That's an understatement.
There's a lot of unfunded mandates. The newest one is with the vote, the graduation requirements now that they're not, no more MCAS, but there's other things we have to do, local assessments. Not to say there's anything wrong with that for having it be rigorous to earn a high school diploma, but there's a lot of unfunded mandates that the public schools have to do simply because we receive some state or federal monies, and Dr. Allardi said the grants are the federal monies. Ultimately, I think I've done the math, and about 20% of our budget is state funding, and local it's about 75-ish% of our budget, and then federal the remaining 5% or less in the form of grants. So it's there's a lot of unfunded mandates in public schools that we have to adhere to.
Have the decreases in federal funding occurred quickly, recently, unexpectedly, or is it something that's been brewing? I'm just wondering if it's...
The concern is we don't know what's going to happen in the coming years. So a recent example is we have a great grant-funded position. Perhaps you've heard of the Healthy KP Coalition. And it's grant-funded, and they just ended that federal funding. So they said we can apply again in April, but we were told previously we should get the next 5 years 6 through 10 grant worth $250,000, which would pay for our position that runs it and works with community members. That's to reduce substance abuse of teens in the community. So that just ended, and that was a federal grant fund.
Is there a lot of substance abuse with high school kids?
I mean, not to say any more than it's ever been in the past. So I think we have more resources now to educate students on, the dangers of vaping and alcohol and drugs. And I do think there's fewer students now that participate in those things. However, not to say it doesn't exist, and we're not trying to, combat that still in the teenage years.
Do we have to support any kids beyond the age of 18?
Good question. Actually, in the basement of where our offices are, we also have an 18 to 22-year-old program. So the state requires, just like you have
Public education.
ages 3
to 22.
and up for students with special needs, students that aren't able to earn a diploma and have certain, or still if they do and they have certain special education needs. We have about 10 students in a King Philip 18 to 22-year-old special education program. So the law mandates that you educate these students with certain needs until they turn 22 years old. So it's not just grades 7 through 12. We also have an 18 to 22-year-old program, which is actually very well run, and we're trying to start to tuition kids in that might be in other communities as a revenue source for that program.
Oh, because they're out of district.
Yeah, they go to they have a little kitchen. They cook their own lunch, and they have we have 2 teachers and 2 or 3 teacher assistants as part of that program. Technically, it's attached to our high school, but they go in the community. They have jobs that they go to during the day, and we still provide education and resources for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not a lot of people know that, but districts are required from ages 3 to age 22 for certain special education students.
And they need to be with their same age. That's why they're in community, your peer group?
Yeah, it's...
Okay.
Some of the specialized programs have an age range, so it can be a couple of years difference.
Yeah, it's like a 4-year range, and that's 18 to 22 is this group.
Because in Connecticut, they associate with college campuses and that.
Oh, okay. Yep. Any other questions or comments or?
I don't know if anybody else wants the details, but Mr. Lehan has always said, the regional school budget, I can't figure it out. Its formula's so complicated. I think you indicated you might
So I do
try to
have some slides
explain
in.
it.
Not to put, I'll just share with you some of the other slides that we gathered from before Ms. Brilliant arrived. The previous finance director for last year. Let's see if I can. Okay, so this was actually when I presented to the Norfolk Advisory Committee last March about this year's budget, the 2025-2026 budget. And it just talks about required local contribution, funding formula factors, enrollment, aggregate wealth, municipal revenue growth factor. I think some of these things are set by the DOR.
Is that in any of these documents?
No, but I could email this to Ms. Mecklenburg or any of you if you're interested. This was shared with the Norfolk Advisory Committee last spring.
So this is tied to your property values.
Please come forward. For the camera especially, and the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the first slide?
Sure. Do you want to sit there or just stand here?
I'll just
pull a chair
Yeah,
over.
just talk.
So this, the wealth is based on your property values of your community. And that is what is determined for your required local contribution. And it's by those percentages that was on the prior slide.
And then these are just factors into the state
Yep, so
funding
it's the
form?
wage- Yep. So it's the wage adjustment and your municipal revenue growth factor. And that is a 2-year cycle. So right now we're on 2024, I believe, for 26. And it was based on the total wealth of your community. And that is what is based for your required local contribution each year by DESE when they determine your amount based on enrollment of October 1's numbers in Norfolk.
So this explains municipal revenue growth factor. This shows over the past 9 years, the enrollment by town. So the W in green is Rentham. That's the highest enrollment for us. Norfolk, close second. You can see, and then Plainville in red at the bottom. And you can see the percentages by year at the bottom. Right now, from last year, it's about 40% Rentham, 35% Norfolk, and 25% Plainville. These show in the enrollment from one year to the next. From 25 to 26, Norfolk's went down 3 students, Plainville up 27 down 27 students, and Rentham up 2. So overall, that's down, 28 students. Each town's municipal revenue growth factor, required local contribution. See, Plainville was down 27 students, and their assessment was lower, you'll see in the end. Less debt service and capital items, that's 1.3 million from the last 20-year bond from the 2004 to 2006 renovations at the middle school and high school. That's what's coming off this year. Those 20 years are lapsing.
When you say coming off, you mean it's done?
Yes.
It's done, okay.
Yes.
In the spring would be the last payment.
This shows our revenue. Charter tuition reimbursement, this is our E&D we use to supplement our budget. So last year, for example, we took $300,000 from E&D and put it into our operating budget. It's not a best practice, and I'd like to discontinue doing that, to build up E&D or to not have to rely on E&D, but at the same time, we don't want your taxes to go up too much proportionally from one year to the next. Medicaid reimbursement, as a regional, we pay for our own health care, which I don't know how much that is, but it's a lot.
So it's a lot, because we pay for our active employees, plus we pay for our retirees as well. So and it's the split, right? So it's 75-25. So we have that in our budget. We pay for everything, for all fringe, we are our own municipality, so we pay for everything within our budget.
75 the town and 25
employees.
The employee, yeah. Correct, yes.
This shows last year for this year, so this is for this FY26, what the assessments were.
So just to put it into perspective, so for Norfolk, you had 651 students going into FY26 based on October 1 numbers. And we received the required local contribution. DESE determines that by your wealth. And then what we do is we take that number, and then anything over for capital debt or anything like that, it gets added on to the local assessment for that year, if that makes sense.
This shows the change from FY25 to FY26, the variance. Norfolk's went up for King Philip, 554,000 from FY25 to, and Plainville just 20,000, and Rentham 945,000, based on all of those factors. This is a summary of everything. And
that's the capital budget.
the capital, yeah.
So that's the last one.
And then this again is the summary for the past 8 years. And I can give you my email and then if you just email me, I can send you this, the whole thing, yeah. Anyone who's interested.
The select board administrator gets all the final slides that are used so that we can get them in the
Yes.
video, and then she puts them out to
And that's
the students and the,
yeah.
I mean, that's
Okay, yes, I'll send them
out
all
to
of
the
this extra
students
stuff.
and the public.
Yep.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, that's it.
More questions?
Any other questions?
With the schools, so for the general government, I understand that we need to do their operating expenses and their salaries. And as taxpayer, we approve that amount, and they can't change a category. Does that work for the schools?
In terms of using budget from a different line item?
Right.
Yeah, so school committee governs the school budgets, and there's policies in place that if we want to make a budget transfer, it has to go through the school committee, and the school committee has to vote to approve a budget transfer from one line to the next. Again, the majority of our budget is fixed cost, contracts and salaries, but if there were an expense item that we wanted to transfer to offset, like last year we ran into deficit in instructional services because we had to add positions that were unbudgeted. If the school committee wants to transfer funds from one account to the next, it has to be voted on in a public meeting, and they have to approve that transfer over a certain threshold.
Only the school committee, not the town meeting.
The town would be if the overall total had to increase from what was voted on, but the school committee can vote on transfers of lines from one line to the next. I think best practice that we do is anything over $5,000.
So what I've noticed is that frequently here's the budget we think we want to spend, and then every department cut. You know, we don't have enough, we don't expect the income, so they say every department needs to cut. And sometimes the schools present, we're going to have to lose teachers because of that. And is it up just to the school department to decide? I'm thinking like you're just given a big amount of money, and it's up to the school to decide where it goes.
No.
It's all budgeted in different cost centers. So there's like instruction, which is teacher salaries and things like that, and there's other lines. So like when we had to cut 20 positions 2 years ago because we were about $1 million to $1.5 million over budget based on unexpected costs in special education, position by position, we budgeted what positions and salary and dollar amounts we were going to reduce, if that makes any sense. So it is specific.
And I think just to clarify, so when we develop our budget, we do that over the course of the winter. Your timeline's a little bit different. We budget based on existing staff members, rollovers for salary, and we present a complete comprehensive overview of the entire budget, and it's available to the public, and we have a public hearing on that budget. So anyone can come in, you can see exactly how many FTEs are budgeted, what the class size anticipated amounts are. Any cuts that we're making, we talk about which positions are not included because we can't fund them going forward. And so that happens at a public hearing. The school committee then votes to approve that budget, and that budget in totality goes to the town to approve. You approve a bottom line dollar. The town, which is outlined, all of the expenditures are outlined in that budget document. If there's changing circumstances, then the school committee manages that total allocation that the town approves at town meeting. But it's not that we ask for this particular amount. It's outlined exactly how it's planned to be spent. There are moving targets, special education. If we have a student move in who is in an out-of-district placement, the district's responsible for a portion of that. So there are times the district might have to, the school committee might implement a budget freeze. We did that last year in February. We had to freeze all budget lines. We couldn't go forward with some anticipated expenses that we had budgeted for, curriculum programs, things like that, because we had to redistribute funding to offset salary deficits. So the town, in a very transparent, through the budget open public hearing, through the presentations to the advisory board, and a presentation at town meeting, approves the detailed budget. The school committee does have the authority to make budget transfers if unexpected circumstances come up.
And each year, you'll see in March, Ms. Brilliant and I, and probably Jim Lehan, the school committee chair, we will present to the Norfolk Advisory Committee our budget in detail. I do like a 10-page budget narrative explaining things. And in Plainville, I go to the Plainville Finance Subcommittee and Rentham. They don't have us present before their town meeting, or I do before the select board. So each town's different. In Norfolk, it's through the advisory committee. We present typically after our school committee votes on the budget.
And you have a public hearing in January?
February is our public budget hearing.
I have a confusion, so I just, forgive me. I don't have
No
any
worries.
children.
No worries.
So the whole school thing is a mystery to me, but that's okay.
It's complicated.
I'm a taxpayer.
Yes.
So I'm curious, when you say out of district,
Mhm.
you're not talking about Plainville, Rentham, and Norfolk. You're talking about school
Yep.
districts outside R3.
No, so we have, we provide, public education provides full education programming for every student in town. There are times that we might have a student who has unique needs that we can't serve within the district. We may have a child with significant medical needs that needs to attend a private placement that is funded by the schools in town.
And that's not to another town's public school, it's
to a
to
private placement.
private
Okay,
special
so
education
in other
collaborative.
words, another town might have an out-of-district student, and they wouldn't come to us, they would go.
No, it doesn't go to another
No.
town. They're
And-
primarily private or
That's what I
collaborative.
Yeah, and I think there's another thing called school choice. King Philip, I'm not, you don't either. We don't participate in school choice. School choice is something where you can say, we'll accept students from other towns and we get $5,000 per student from the sending town. We don't participate in that. What I'm talking about is students, they're special education, they have an IEP and we can't accommodate
What
their
do the
need.
initials stand for?
Individualized education plan. And if they have a team meeting that includes educators, parents, advocates, and they determine if it's not in our district, the placement of the student, and there's different specialized schools that they could go to on average, not including transportation costs that we would pay. For us, on average, it's $110,000 per student for the students in those situations. And we have about 35 of those students or so.
Did you say it's $5 million?
For our budget. For our budget. Yes.
No, I was trying to understand that because I know there are many families that are in that situation, and I just want to talk intelligently with them.
Mhm.
So I didn't
Yeah.
understand.
And each situation's different.
Yeah.
And they have a team that makes the decision that is in the best interest of the student. And we're not involved in those decisions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When are negotiations starting for teachers, for the secretary, like?
So good. Ours are staggered. We have, my first year was just food service. We have 5 units. We have food service workers, teacher assistants, teachers, custodians, and secretaries. This is my 3rd year. So my first year we did food service. Last year, ours are staggered. Last year we did teacher assistants and secretaries. And now this year, we're doing teachers and custodians. And are yours all in the same year? Or?
We only have 2 bargaining units in Norfolk, so
Okay.
we have teachers, and we are in the process of negotiating for an initial contract for paraprofessionals.
Mhm.
And both of those are this year.
Can I ask, do you have a 401K or 2 pensions here? Like,
So and I don't know if you want to speak to Norfolk County. But for teachers and administrators, we pay into the MTRS, Massachusetts Teacher Retirement System.
Yeah.
11% of our paychecks automatically go there. And then different groups for us is at Norfolk County Retirement for
Correct.
custodians, teacher assistants,
Yes.
secretaries.
Correct.
And I'm not.
OPEB for anybody that is under their part-timers, so anybody under 20 hours will have to pay into OPEB, which is the state-funded pension, because we don't pay into Social Security. So that is why we need to pay into.
And the other part of your question, we do have, by choice, individual employees could pay into, in addition to the pension system, a 401.
It's a 403B.
403B.
For government.
401K.
and we match? No, any matches?
No.
No matches? Okay, with the town. Okay, thank you.
The OPEB budget, is that town-specific?
No.
Because I hear
We have
like
our
with
own-
major underfunding.
King Philip is all,
King Philip.
have our own
Each town.
health insurance, OPEB.
Yes, we have our own trust for OPEB that we will start funding.
And I'm not sure about through the
Well,
town.
on the town side, but regional school districts are different because they represent 3 different towns, so they generally function as their own municipality for the benefits and for.
Is that union stipulated?
What?
As,
Yeah, the amounts.
Mass teachers retirement, so anybody in the schools that has a professional teacher's license is in, and administrators are in MTRS, and there are different options that people had. Some people chose Retirement Plus, and then it's a fixed amount that comes out of their check that goes into retirement. If people didn't sign up for Retirement Plus, they're a different percentage amount, but that's all fixed by MTRS.
Yeah.
We are happy to stay and answer individual questions. I'm also happy to take people want to take a tour of the Drolet. I know it is freezing cold and very windy out, and many of you toured with me at different events, but happy to stay and take anyone who would like to see the school facility or answer any questions. I know I have to put the boxes together for Anita, so if there's any handicap handouts that you want, the materials are here. And if there's any questions that didn't get answered, happy to do that as well. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.